Hello and welcome to another episode of Panel on Panels, the podcast about all things comics and comics related. I'm your host, John Campbell. Joining me as always, my co-host, Mike Ergoni.
Greetings, John.
And my other co-host, Donovan Eilert.
Hi, everybody. How's it going?
Give you a minute there to
Just
let Donovan know how you're doing.
we like to know. We can sense it. It's a feeling. It reverberates.
Don't
back.
lump me in with this. It's just you two that care about all of them.
It's you who doesn't have the empathy. That's right. I forgot.
That's all right.
I forgot about that.
You were created by a scientist, so...
Well, you know, he was trying really hard, and he just missed a few emotional marks. It's not his fault.
It's amazing what the difference it can make.
Yeah, it's true. So today we're sort of returning to something we did a little bit earlier in the show, which was putting the spotlight on some indie books.
Yes.
This time, though, we've taken a bit of a different approach than last time, where we sort of just talked about indie books and what they are, and then recommended some titles. This time, what we've done is each one of us has picked a series that we were interested in.
Yes.
The criteria was it had to have only one volume out, one trade. That none of us could have read it before. And apparently it had to be an Image book.
Because independently, all three of us picked out a book that was published by Image Comics.
Let's talk, before we get into these, I want to talk a little bit about Image. Because they're kind of killing it right now in comics.
Hell yeah.
There's Marvel and DC are the big two. And then there's Image. Like, Image is the big one of the indie world.
I mean, I feel like in the last, year and a half, I've started reading almost as much Image comics as I have.
There's no question
Marvel.
that I probably read more Image books than any other publisher.
More, you think?
Maybe so. I read so many Image books. Yeah, I mean, if you combine DC and Marvel, no.
Sure.
But individually, I don't know. It's really tough.
Damn.
I would say if you're getting into independent comics, the two to kind of err on the side of caution with would be Image and Dark Horse.
Err on the side of caution?
Yeah, like
Well,
if you're
it's
going to
those
a
are
new...
pretty safe bets. Those
like if you're-
houses publish a
Oh, I
lot
see-
of
I
really
see what
good
you're
stuff.
saying.
Yeah,
what
like
you're
you go to a comic book shop and you want to go out on a limb, but you don't know. First,
No.
ask whoever's working behind the counter, because that's usually...
Like, not gonna lie,
Pretty
Dynamite and Boom put out some really good stuff.
Absolutely.
But they also put out some just like, it's okay.
No, you're right. I think overall, Image and Dark Horse, I read more of than probably the other.
They're really... I mean, and they're...
And I love some stuff from Dynamite and Boom, for sure.
Yeah.
And
And they're-
IDW as well.
Image and Dark Horse are some of the older of the independent presses too, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
they've been around. They've
Because, I mean,
worked some
Dark
stuff out.
Horse is like 1980s, and then Image is early 90s. So yeah. But it seems like when Image started, it was, number one, it was a big gamble because you had people like Todd McFarlane coming over from Marvel. He took a lot of the top talent at Marvel and started Image with Spawn specifically.
Right.
And Image at the time was kind of, I mean, Spawn was hugely successful, of course, but what's other Image stuff from that time, you know?
When did... No, because that's Darkness is Top Cow. I don't know.
No, that's the thing. Like they didn't get off to like a great start. It's been in the last probably 8 to 10 years that they've really become this juggernaut of indie comics.
I mean, based on the fact that, like, yeah, again, independently, we all chose Image books that piqued our interest.
I mean, the only criteria was it had to be not a Marvel or DC book, and we didn't want to do any licensed stuff.
Right.
These had to be creator owned.
Or else I would have totally done Godzilla.
Sure, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Exactly.
Well, and I also feel like they have a larger section on the bookshelf too. I mean, they're putting on a lot of stuff.
They're putting on a lot of books, but that's almost even more incredible is how many books they're putting out, and then the percentage of incredible quality.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't pick up an Image book where I'm like, kind of okay. For the most part, if I read an Image book, it's really good.
Yeah.
Which is not good because now I have to read every issue of like 50 series from Image. You know, it's insane these days. I mean, obviously they put out The Walking Dead, which is,
That in itself is a juggernaut.
yeah, exactly. That's almost its own thing at this point. But I mean, they have partnerships with people like Robert Kirkman and Mark Millar as well. They have imprints. Both of them have imprints within
Right.
Image. I think really what Image's success
But the success of those kinds of books allows these other smaller books to give creators the freedom to make like really cool, really inventive, imaginative stuff.
That's what I was going to say. I think the reason Image has become so successful is they've found really talented people and just let them loose.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want. I mean, you could
That is definitely showcased in the books we've
absolutely.
picked out today.
These are 3 very unique books that are very specific.
I will say that,
to their
yeah,
creation.
each of these 3 that we've chosen, which we should probably introduce at some point,
Yeah, we will.
You can guess.
But let's
You can
bury
guess
the lead a
throughout
little bit more.
are wildly different, both in their
Absolutely.
like settings and storytelling and
Art style, everything
Mm-hmm.
about him is completely different. And that's something that Image is really good about as well. There's no, I think I mentioned this before when we were talking about indie books. There's no house style. It's not
Right.
like,
Some of
that's
these-
an Image book.
Like if you look at Top Cow books for like The Darkness or Witchblade, which there was definitely an era in my life where I just consumed
Sure,
that
yeah.
stuff. But there's definitely a style to those
Oh
books.
yeah, the Darkness of Witchblade. I mean,
Well, to
those
be
are-
fair, those crossed over quite a bit, so
Sure.
there was definitely a.
but you're right. There's
unified
a
world
lot
there.
of there's sort of a house style over at Top Cow, and that's fine. I mean, there's nothing. We're not putting
Marvel's
that down
the same way for the most part,
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
and same with DC.
sure. Yeah, exactly. These are house styles. Even stuff like Dark Horse, I feel like there is sort of a style.
Does it look like Mike Mignola?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, that's sort of the thing, yeah. And then there's nothing wrong with that, but there is sort of this like kind of pulpy, gothic sort of look to a lot of their books, which is cool. I love it. I love a lot of the stuff that Dark Horse publishes, but Image is so eclectic. I mean, they just everything's free reign. You've got things like Sex Criminals from Fraction, and then you have stuff like Kirkman's books, like The Walking Dead and Outcast, and Lazarus by Rucka. I mean, these are wildly different books and wildly different tone and style. Everything about them is completely different.
Yeah.
And the 3 books we're
You can't see it on the podcast, but like we're all 3 of us are sitting around here just nodding emphatically.
Yeah. We're big
Yeah, I
fans.
mean, there's
We really
no
are.
question this episode's going to have a lot of love for Image.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, we do love Image. But let's talk about the 3 books that they published specifically that we're talking about today. They are The Wicked and the Divine, which is by Kieran. Is it Kieran or Kyron?
I've always said Kieran.
Okay, yeah. That's how I've been
We will
pronouncing
not
it too,
give the podcast without checking a
Butchering
pronunciation.
somebody's name, yeah.
Yeah, but it's written by Kieran Gillen and drawn by Jamie McKelvey.
That's the one I brought to the table.
That is the one Gorgoni picked. Donovan, you picked Pretty Deadly, which is by Kelly Sue DeConnick and Emma Rios. And I picked a book called Low, which is by Rick Remender with art by Greg Tocchini?
Yeah, that seems. That
Yeah,
looks
it's
right.
Tocchini.
Tocchini, yeah. You know this for a fact?
I know it for a fact.
Okay, good.
I
So,
looked it up.
The Wicked and the Divine, Pretty Deadly, and Low,
Low,
are
yes.
the 3 books we picked, and we cannot recommend these books.
Absolutely. We'll
enough.
have a recommendations segment later, but obviously this whole episode is kind of like a giant recommendation segment.
Right.
As we discuss these.
But we are going to discuss these books in depth because
Right.
we've all read each of these 3.
So if you have not read them, now is the time to pause this podcast, go and read them, then come back and listen to our spoiler-filled discussions of them.
Because here's the thing about Image books,
Mm-hmm.
which would make it easy for, like, usually we give that brief pause as kind of a joke, like,
Yeah, yeah,
okay,
yeah.
go. Image books for the first trade are always $10.
Yeah, at most, because
Yeah.
you can get them on Amazon for like $8 or $6.
Right,
sometimes.
exactly. So,
So-
like, getting into an Image book is one of the easiest things
Oh,
in the
yeah,
world.
yeah. They're
And
very-
that's
It's like a
how
drug
they
deal.
get you.
It's
Oh
a
my
drug
God.
deal.
They
Like-
call it a special introductory price. I saw that.
Yeah,
I was
lots of
on
drug
their, I
dealers
was on their
call it a
website.
special introductory price.
I was on their website earlier today, and they say that now at a low special introductory price. So yeah,
So-
you get hooked, and then suddenly you got to pay $15-$16 for volume 2.
So, yeah.
Which is still pretty modest. I mean,
They don't really charge too much for their books.
No, I
we're
thi- I
we're-
think
they
they're-
charge. They definitely
It's
still
average.
Well, they
For what
still
they're
charge less
raking in,
than
the
like
talent-
Marvel or DC though. Because DC or Marvel in particular is getting up to like $17.99 a trade now.
That second trade of Hulk that I just picked up, it was like $20 for only like 5 issues. That
Yeah.
killed me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and DC similar kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Although I feel like they're a little less. They're more like $14.99 for soft
something like
cover.
that.
no, they go. I mean, they go all over the place. But
Well, I mean, yeah, but I'm talking generally for like a soft cover.
But this isn't economics.
No,
So,
not yet. Well,
all right.
wait till we get to that episode that no
Go
one
out,
listens to.
pick up The Wicked and the Divine, Pretty Deadly, and Low right now. Go.
Okay, you got them. You've read them. Now, we warned you as many times as we can. Spoilers will follow. We're going to talk about each one of these books individually, starting with Gorgoni's pick, which is The Wicked and the Divine, which, as we said, was by Kieran Gillen and Jamie McKelvey.
Wanna give us
Gorgoni.
a synopsis.
Well, I'll give you a brief synopsis.
Well, I was gonna first ask what made you pick this book? Why was this your choice for this?
So I hang around Reddit a
Sure.
little bit, and specifically our comic books is one of my frequent homes. there were a couple of panels posted on there of just like, oh, this is a cool scene, or like, oh, this is a cool like set piece, and that initially piqued my interest. And then finding out that it's also by the same team that did the recent run of Young Avengers also helped a lot.
Which was an excellent run.
I love that book.
Great run.
But also, I'm a huge fan of urban fantasy, and so like finding out like, oh, these are the reincarnations of gods, like,
Right, and mythology. On top of
mythology,
that,
living in like modern day society.
Yeah.
The base,
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead and give them the synopsis.
yeah, the basic pitch on the back of the book is every 90 years, 12 gods return as young people. They are loved. They are hated. In 2 years, they are all dead. It's happening now. It's happening again.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the basic premise is like every 90 years you've got 12 young people who basically reincarnated as gods. An interesting point is that they're not always the same gods per se.
Right, yeah.
So you've just got 12 gods from ancient mythology coming back and living in like the mortal world, basically living as like superstar pop stars.
Yeah, they're celebrities, basically.
Oh,
yeah.
definitely. The
Yeah.
selection of gods in this kind of like in the first volume is called the Faust Act, which I kind of I like that little pun
Yeah,
right
the first
there.
volume is called that. Yeah.
But it's I love the selection of gods they present in this little.
Yeah,
in this cycle.
they're not specific. They're from all over the place in terms of their origins. Correct.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like Greek mythology necessarily. Or,
No.
It's all over the place.
I mean, one of our main characters in this first volume is Lucifer,
Right,
like
exactly,
the morning
yeah.
star of Judeo-Christian
Sure.
mythology.
Yeah. But then you've also got Minerva, the Morrigan, Baal.
Ball's great.
Our
Another one.
Emma,
Sekhmet.
Sekhmet's great.
Sekhmet. Yeah. Was it Emma Tarasu?
Something like that.
Amaterasu. I'm going to go with. It's easier when I
Nailed
just read it and go like, I recognize that name.
Baphomet, I believe, was another one.
Yes, Baphomet is
yeah.
in it,
Good
yes.
old goat god.
He's pretty crazy.
He was great. He's just like all decked out Judas Priest style.
Yeah. And not very maybe emotionally stable. It seems like
some of the more evil gods are definitely the crazier ones.
Oh, yeah.
teetering.
But it presents this great world in which these like 12 young people who are the literal reincarnations of gods
Right.
are wandering around being like highly regarded, basically pop stars.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, people are paying to go and see them. I mean, the book opens up with that, with I believe it's Emma Tessera,
Yes.
whatever, however you pronounce her name, is doing something. I don't know.
It's kind of like a pop show. It's like it's some
Yeah.
kind of concert. I don't know.
Yeah, but you don't really get a sense of what she's doing. She's just kind of like present. She's emitting something. I mean, there's a force behind it, but it's
A
like
divine radiance.
yeah, I'm saying it's not necessarily singing or something.
Right.
I don't really know what it is.
It's kind of presented as like a concert vibe, definitely.
Oh,
but
oh,
we're
for
not,
sure.
But we're
Oh.
not exactly sure what
People
is
are
going on.
enraptured by it. You know, I
Right.
mean, that's the sort of the thing about it. Yeah, so you see that there's a cult of people, not like a religious cult, but I mean, kind of, I guess.
Yeah,
but
there's a little bit
but
of
I mean,
a cult
like, it
aspect
feels
to it.
like that.
like a fandom. I mean,
Yeah.
like you said, it's almost an entertainment, like a pop culture sort of thing.
One of the best parts about it is the fact that it's a bunch of young people that gravitate towards these gods, and the parents are like, "Oh, what kind of crap are you kids into?" like some kind of popular band.
Sure,
Like,
yeah.
it's just like,
Stay away from
I
those.
don't get it.
Yeah,
Well, and then there are definitely people you see who are like trying to figure out this whole organization and this whole correspondence between these people who say they're gods and the young people who follow them. You get, somebody who's kind of trying to figure out what the heck this is all about.
well, we have a character who's a journalist who's investigating this, going like, okay, well, what is really going on? Because obviously they're not gods.
Because maybe we should talk about like the main thrust of the story of the first volume is revolves around our main character whose name is I am blanking right now. John, what do you got?
I believe her name is Laura.
Yes.
Yes,
That sounds right.
that is correct.
Clearly, I didn't read this yesterday, but yeah, the main character, Laura, she is one of these kind of groupies of the gods. She's going around seeing them all. She happens to meet another of the gods, Lucifer, reincarnated as a girl.
Yeah.
Which I thought was super cool.
Yeah. And specifically, like the design of her is she's got short blonde hair. She's always wearing a white suit.
Yeah. Super like, what's his name? Iggy Pop, kind of.
More David Bowie.
David Bowie, yeah.
Yeah. There's a glam rock aspect to her. But there's also something in that David Bowie way of almost that's almost like androgynous because there's both masculine and feminine aspects to her, which makes her this very kind of alluring sort of character, which makes sense for Lucifer.
But Lucifer is accused of killing some people, and Laura is kind of drawn into this whole like situation. And
Well, Lucifer did kill the people.
Yeah.
However, in self-defense because the people were trying to shoot her.
Right.
But
it's also like, how does modern society like justify accusing someone of killing people even though they can't prove that it's magic, sort of?
Right, because she snaps her fingers and people's heads blow off.
Right.
And so, wait a minute. How can you put somebody on trial for that if you don't also believe that they have the powers to do that?
So there's like a big faction of society that doesn't necessarily believe that these people are actual literal gods.
Right. In fact, there's scenes throughout the book where people are trying to explain, well, they probably did this, and this would be how they would fake that, and this is this, and there's skeptics in the world of this where, because people, well, and as there would be if people suddenly start claiming they're gods.
And things get decidedly more complicated when at the trial the judge's head also explodes.
Right.
At the time that she snaps her fingers, but then not her. She didn't do that.
The whole kind of gist of the first volume is like proving that Lucifer didn't do it, which is a great concept just by itself. It's like you got to prove that Lucifer is innocent.
The devil's on trial for murder, and she didn't do it.
Well, she did do the murder she was on trial for. She didn't kill the judge.
Right. Which is in the new accusation or whatever it is. Yeah.
Which draws Laura into this whole like winding web of like conspiracy that's definitely going on.
Oh yeah.
Of just like, is it the other god setting her up? Is it like some kind of, because there's some weird force behind this reincarnation cycle as well that we're not really, it's not fully explained in this first book.
Right.
It has something to do with what's that old, like the spider
Ananke?
Yeah.
Who's sort of the like the shepherd of these gods in a lot of ways.
She always is like carnate, I guess, for lack of a term, while this cycle of reincarnation happens.
Yeah, because we see her there's a section in the book where we see how Lucifer came back. She was a teenage girl in like East London, and then her parents are gone one night, and Ananke comes there and it's just like, you're going to be...
you are God now.
Yeah. What now? And the thing is, you said within 2 years they're all dead. That's sort of the thing. Now, what I questioned as I was reading this, is that like a set thing or does that just happen?
Because it seems like definitely still some mystery in this book.
Absolutely. I mean, this is only volume 1, but that's sort of the interesting thing about it to me, where I was like, because at first I'm like, okay, so they only have a 2-year lifespan. It doesn't seem to be that. They seem to be...
because we have that flashback at the beginning of the book that kind of implies that they all killed themselves.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Like there's that weird, like they're all in, or at least a chunk of them are in the room together, and then the building explodes, and we're kind of led to believe that they were there to do that.
Yeah, but there's also these sort of things where it's like they talk about almost like martyrdom or being crucified in some way.
But also the idea that like with this brief period of time, they're there to inspire man to be greater.
Right.
And that's a super cool concept. I like the idea of like gods walking among mortals for not just like to dick around, like
right.
In a lot of classical mythology, it's like, and Zeus came down as a swan and had sex with a lady, just to
Well, there are some people who are just kind of dicking around.
It's true,
because I would say, what's Baal doing really?
Yeah, that's true. Or the Morrigan, for that matter.
Or Wooden. Do we ever even see Wooden?
Do we see?
Yeah, we see him.
Yeah,
Woden. It's Odin. It's just that's the old way of pronouncing it, is Woden.
Who's kind of a robot or a Daft Punk looking guy.
Yes, he's very Daft Punky. I like a super techno, like Norse god.
Yeah. That was cool when you see them all the gods assembled and they're all just sort of hanging out. But they say Baal is almost like.
He's definitely rocking like a 50 Cent kind of.
Oh yeah,
Kanye West.
He's also like the big man on campus sort of thing, where everyone's like, "Ooh, Baal, yeah, that guy."
He's happening. He's now.
He's got the giant mural of him in his house.
Himself,
and stuff. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
because I am that big of a deal.
Right. Yeah. Because there's some line about him where it's like he was a god before he was a god. Like this guy always had the ego of a god, even when he was a mortal person. So through that, through Laura is sort of our surrogate as we enter the world of the gods. And I want to talk about the Morrigan a little bit because
she's my favorite.
There's some point where we have to go into what is basically the underworld, but is a subway system in the comic, which is the idea that the Morrigan is like the underground, like alt kind of.
The Morrigan is definitely one of my favorite gods from like Celtic mythology. There's also references to the Morrigan in Germanic mythology, but I won't get. This isn't Gorgoni's mythology.
I don't really have a
corner.
ranking of these mythological gods, so sure.
But the triple goddess idea, the idea that it's 3 individuals that make up one like entity, has
cool.
always been fascinating and like fun to me. And in plenty of my D&D campaigns, I've had the Morrigan actually show up a couple of times. So when she showed up in this book, I was like, "Oh, the Morrigan, awesome!"
And the introduction to the Morrigan is everyone's in the subway waiting for the Morrigan. And then
Baphomet shows up
with her
decapitated
head and claims he's now the ruler of the underworld. Mm-hmm. And then the head starts speaking that Baphomet is awesome or whatever it's saying. And then the real Morrigan shows up and is like, "What are you doing,
you idiot?"
And then he's just like, "I'm entertaining the crowd while you were waiting, while they're waiting for you." You know? But I love this whole idea of like that's like where the goth kids are into the Morrigan, you know.
They're into the Morrigan and
the
Baphomet.
secret shows underground and stuff. You know, I mean, like Amatsura is like playing stadiums, and the Morrigan's like, "You got to get the secret place, man. That's where the show.
You got to know where to go in at the right time, and you got to just hang out there. She may show up, she may not.
Right.
We don't know."
Right, exactly.
But yeah, the fact that the gods also represent kind of the different aspects of popular culture, I think is very entertaining.
Well, as one of the like taglines for the book is sort of the thing where it says it's a world where gods are the ultimate pop stars and pop stars are the ultimate gods. Mm-hmm. So yeah,
which they don't really play with the second idea all that much. I feel like we don't really see any of like.
Well, other than I think that's sort of the implication of the book. I mean, that's the subtext of what's going on.
It's like they have this following because people are like, "Oh, they're so talented," and it's cool that they think they're gods, but
I love
they legitimately are.
But I love that,
gods.
like I said before, you don't really see what makes them talented beyond their gods. I mean, they sort of are these like socialite celebrities that we have now that are just famous for nothing because they're famous for being famous. Mm-hmm. So these people are just like, "We're gods," and everybody's like, "Cool, follow them, awesome."
I love the scene in. I just forgot the name of the movie. It's like the rock. Oh, hold on, we'll come back to it.
What?
I'll give you the scene. The guy is on top of a shack about to jump into a pool, and he says, "I'm a golden god."
Almost Famous.
Almost Famous. Thank you.
I am a shining golden god.
Yeah, and people are like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Wait, hold on. I really dig music."
Yeah.
And like no response. He's like, "I'm a shining golden god," and people like freak out. Like that's what this book felt like multiple times.
Right.
Like somebody's on stage making this huge claim, and people are just like, "Yeah."
There is actually, now that you mention Almost Famous, there is a definite kind of like echo of that in this.
Well, sure, because through Laura we sort of have this "I'm with the band" kind of thing.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
I mean, we've entered the world of the famous, of the wicked and the divine, of course. But there definitely is that feeling of like I'm walking amongst gods.
One of the most interesting things about the character of Laura, though, is that she's not content with just walking amongst the gods and being exposed to this world. There's that definite sense like she wants to be close to it so she can become it.
Oh, yeah, because Lucifer pretty much, I mean, flat out promises her powers if she helps her.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know.
By the end of the book, there's a definite sense like maybe she succeeded.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
the end of the book is huge cliffhanger.
Which
I don't think there's any maybe about it. Is there? I mean, she definitely has powers.
Well, we don't, but
whether or not that came from Lucifer,
I don't know. Yeah, she seems to have Lucifer's powers,
and it could be somebody in the next room lighting her cigarette. I mean, we didn't explicitly see, right? I mean, like
that was actually one of the biggest disappointments about this first volume of it was because I kind of fell in love with the character of Lucifer. Throughout the volume.
Me too.
Whether she be like strolling about the streets, kind of like not giving a fuck, or that kind of like Hannibal Lecter-esque scenes when she's in jail because she's choosing to be there, which I thought was great.
Yeah, because as soon as she decides she doesn't need to be there,
it's just like, and I'm out because I'm a god.
I love the way that they haven't cuffed her hands; they've cuffed her fingers,
so she can't snap. Right,
as if that really mattered. Like that's not really the source of her power. I don't take. I mean, that's just how she demonstrates it. Mm-hmm. That is really cool. This whole idea of like, what do we do? How do we imprison a god? I don't know.
But the fact that at the end of the book she dies was like super disappointing to me because I'd grown so attached to the character.
Yes, I mean, I like the character a lot too, but it also felt like it had to happen.
Yeah,
I mean, there's just no, and especially whatever they're doing with Laura, I think stems from the death of Lucifer.
Because that's one of the things I'll say about all of the books we read was I'm super interested to see what happens next.
Oh yeah.
Say what you will about Image books, the fact that they get you for so cheap and like immediately draw you in.
This one, more than the other two, to different degrees. I feel like this is the one I most wanted to pick up volume 2 of right now.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
See, this was the least.
Really?
Out of all three of them. Oh, yeah.
Because Donovan, you've kind of kept a little quiet about this book. What did you think about it overall?
I like the book. I like we haven't really talked about the art style. It's hard to do over a podcast, but it's like really clean, really sweet art style.
I mean, it's a similar vibe to Young Avengers.
I mean, the art looked pretty much the same.
But I'm saying it's very bright colors. It's very clean lines. Everything is
and all these the people that could feel like caricatures as these like rock idols feel like real people, which is really cool. I love the way that it opens up with the generation before ending their 2-year reign. Like that was such a sweet setup for the whole book because you meet these characters for the first few pages and then all of a sudden they explode.
Well, right from the start, you see it's 1920 something there,
Right.
and you're like, what? And then you see these people in a room. You're like, okay, who are these people? What are they doing? And then they explode.
I have a feeling like 2 volumes from now, we'll like read the beginning of this volume again and go, oh.
Yeah,
But again, overall, I liked it. The other 2, I think, really blew me away. And I feel like there were a lot of elements to get a hold of in this one. There's a lot of gods, a lot of people to move through. It wasn't as streamlined, and I felt like
I don't know about that because I was concerned about that because I knew about how many gods were going to be in it and stuff, but I never really was confused or lost at any point during it. I mean, I thought every.
I didn't. No, I just think that there's a lot for. I mean, again, there's a lot to take in.
I mean, they definitely pick and choose who they focus on.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a large chunk of the pantheon, I guess, for lack of a better term. I believe they use that term in the book, actually.
They do.
Yeah.
That like we see maybe once.
Yeah, I mean,
that
like,
are passively mentioned.
You have a character
maybe
like
twice.
You have a character like Minerva who's kind of just around. Like
Right.
you see her on the like council of.
There is that running gag of just, like,
even Woden is just basically in a couple of scenes.
What's that running gag with Laura? Where is it Minerva? She's constantly like, ugh, Minerva.
No, it's Kara.
I don't remember.
No, it's somebody. No, it's not. It's not Minerva. It's I think it's Kara is their name. Where they keep saying like, well, and then there's what Kara did.
Terra.
Tara, that's it. Yeah,
Yeah,
and there's
it's
just,
like-
there's just constant.
Terra.
Yeah,
and
that's
we
it.
don't even see her in
No,
the
we
freaking
don't
book,
see
I
her in this. I'm actually, but that's one of the things I'm most excited about for future volumes is like, who is this person and what's everyone's problem with her?
I
Also,
also
literally, like all the characters are like,
Oh, yeah. And I also did read this book last. And it's very fantastical and fun, but the other 2, which I mean we're going to get to, were so much more grand. Like the story and the characters you're following.
Grand? Really?
Oh yeah. The characters that you're following in the next 2 books are like the stakes could not be higher. This is a really interesting idea. What's going on inside the like these gods and like how does this all work?
But I feel
the
like
other
this
ones
is
were like
a great setup to what is eventually going to become some kind of like epic. We're starting at ground level, and it's definitely a slow burn.
But the other 2 start at ground level, and I feel like you gain more. Oh yeah.
Ground level? Are you kidding me?
certainly not low.
That's below ground level.
Thank you. Yeah.
No, but I don't even just mean it in that. I just mean we're in an underwater world. I mean, what I like about this is it's like, okay, this is our world, and then into it is introduced these gods, and then the subsequent, hysteria around them, and like we are. The Earth is just a place where this conflict between gods is occurring now,
Right.
Which is something I'm always fascinated by in comics and in like you said, like urban fantasy and stuff, where it's just like this is the battleground of things that are larger than we can conceive
And
or
humanity
deal
better
with.
deal with it.
Right, exactly, and that is the whole thing about like what do you do when you have Lucifer in a cell?
There's so many like socio-political ramifications to like this kind of situation that are like there's a lot. Some of it is touched on in the book, like religious people going, "We're not cool with this. You're kind of disputing everything we hold true."
Yeah.
And those are the people who initially try to kill Lucifer.
Sure, makes sense.
Right. Well, she's calling herself Lucifer for God's sake.
Right.
For God's sake. Aha.
Yes. Which is
GODS apostrophe.
actually this is an interesting thing that just happened. Fox has a new show coming on called Lucifer. And there's a lot of people who are really upset about it.
The like million mothers or whatever.
Oh yeah, they're really upset about it because they're misportraying Lucifer as like some kind of charming anti-hero when it's like no, he's a terrible
He's
villain.
been portrayed as that in so many different pieces of
But in
fiction.
a network television show where he's the
God
main
forbid.
character,
That's so funny.
it just makes no, because yeah, it is the sort of they're like they are damaging how important we need to talk about. Like, do we?
Some people hold that opinion in high regard, John, and we cannot discourage or dissuade them from keeping that opinion. We can simply ignore them.
Yes. I'm just saying, it's not a doesn't feel like a pressing matter to me.
No.
I don't know. But yeah, it is interesting that just happened to I happened to read that right around the time I was reading this, and it's just like, okay, yeah, that would happen if somebody's like, I'm Lucifer. People are like, oh God, no, literally, God, no.
But I don't know. I guess that's a pretty good segue in over to your book, Donovan.
Yes,
because,
Donovan.
Like, how do you feel that is like? I'm not trying to discredit the other two books. I loved all of them. But how do you feel that Pretty Deadly is any more like?
So hang on, was The Wicked the Divine your favorite of the books?
Say it.
No.
So we can hate you forever.
Okay, all right. I was just wondering because I was going to say,
No,
was
really
Pretty
love it.
Deadly your favorite?
No.
Okay, I was just wondering if
I'm
like
pretty sure we all have the same favorite.
okay, I was just wondering.
We're
I was
doing them
wondering. I was wondering as you were talking. Like I'm like, do we all just pick our favorites as the one we pick?
No,
or?
no.
We're
Okay, all right, all right.
moving. We're moving. We just went bronze for me. We're about to do silver. We're
I would
finish
flip,
with gold.
I would flip those for me. I would say Low is my favorite, then Wicked and Divine, then Pretty Deadly, and I really liked all three. But that would be my opinion.
I would agree.
Well, you're wrong.
All right. Well,
great.
let's turn now to you picked Pretty Deadly, which is once again by Kelly Sue DeConnick and Emma Rios.
Great stuff.
Which I don't know when this is airing, but a couple weeks ago or whenever it was, I recommended Hex and same
Yeah.
artist.
It was a while
Rios.
ago, yeah.
That was pretty good.
So what made you choose this?
I love any bits and pieces of stuff I've read by Kelly Sue DeConnick.
Yeah, she's fantastic. I mean,
She's great, but I haven't read that much.
Mm-hmm.
And we were all picking titles, and there was this image title, and it's a like fantastical folklore western,
Yes.
with Greek mythology elements attached to it. That I was just like, yeah, that sounds great. The thing is, though, is on the cover and on the inside, there are no descriptions of what this book is.
That was one thing that actually, I'm not going to say bugged me, but it was just like, I don't know what I'm getting into, and that doesn't happen anymore.
I know, that's good, though.
I
That
loved
was really
that.
good, yeah.
I really, and it paid off really well. There's all there is like high praise from people such as like, I don't know, Brian Michael Bendis,
that guy.
whatever that guy does.
Whatever opinion he. I think there's a Warren Ellis quote on the back as well.
Yeah, I mean it's
some heavy hitters are fans of this.
This seems like a book Warren Ellis would like.
and it is.
Oh, yeah.
Again, it is.
Well, they've
also-
worked together as well. DeConnick and Ellis have collaborated.
Really?
Yeah.
What have they worked on?
They did Avengers Assemble together.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Anyways, Pretty Deadly is kind of in a strange way like an Orpheus and Eurydice type story.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And again, I guess I understand what you guys are saying with like the Wicked and Divine is in our world, just a few things are shifted, but Pretty Deadly and Low both paint such a good picture of being like, this is a brand new world, these are the rules, go for it. That like instantly I was just so
I didn't
drawn to
necessarily
everything
feel
they were
that
doing.
Pretty Deadly was a different world. It was just like there's a mythology that exists in this version of the Old West that is alive.
I mean, I've never talked about this on the show, but I don't think so. I'm a huge fan of westerns.
Oh, so am I.
Yeah. But I'm saying so. This was like, I will say this one took the longest for me to click into. Issue 1, issue
Wow.
2, and I was kind of like, this looks cool. I don't know what's happening.
I was pretty on
I don't
board
know who anyone is.
right
I
from,
really
like,
was
the
having
third or
trouble
fourth page.
following it.
Yeah,
for
me
a while.
too.
That's interesting. I really had trouble following it in the beginning because I had read the first issue a while ago and was like, I'll read this later. This is very confusing. But I got really into it down the stretch. Once it started, but I mean, like, because I was I was sold this book on the promise of a Western.
You get it.
You get it, but it takes a while to get. I mean, there's Western imagery in the beginning, But at a certain point, it kind of turns into like a Pale Rider sort of
Yes.
thing to me. I mean,
Quite literally.
And it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Which, I mean, in that movie,
beautiful.
there's a lot of debate about whether or not Clint Eastwood is a ghost or a spirit of vengeance or death himself or something.
But he plays that in every movie he's in.
But that's the most ambiguous.
Get off my lawn.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
$1 Million Baby. That was definitely-
He's death. That's why she dies.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
exactly right. Spoiler on that as well. What I also like is, and it adds to the elements of the folklore and the mythology involved. Wicked and Divine is like a very classic panel structure, and it's beautiful. This one plays all kinds of things with the way it's laid
There's
out.
a couple of 2-page spreads that actually like confused me 1 or 2 times, where it's just like, how do I read this?
I like
But
that.
I like
occasionally,
that.
though.
Yeah.
Occasionally, I mean, again, there's nothing
It's
on the
beautifully
cover.
drawn. I mean-
There's sometimes you have to kind of like make your own path through the panels, and it's kind of fun because it doesn't read left to right, top to bottom like a.
Isn't
Not
there,
100%
there's
of the time,
there's a spread in here. It's in. I really hope it's in this and not in one of the other ones, but I'm pretty sure it's in here. It's in here where they're crossing a river, and you follow the conversation from point to point. That's in this, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really like that. I mean, that's almost like that. It had to be mentioned. The Scott Snyder Batman run with some of the like circular sort of
The
conversations.
Ouroboros conversation, and
Yeah, exactly. That's sort of.
Interior.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it reminded me of that, where you're just like following. I really like the action of Pretty Deadly a lot. Like
Yeah.
the fluidity of
A
the
Western
movement.
with sword fights.
There's
Yes.
that
Oh,
one
it's
issue
so
where
much
half
fun.
of it is just a fight between Deathface Ginny and Big Alice, and that's so cool.
Yeah,
It's really fun.
Oh yeah, it's really odd. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I felt like this had very. We'll talk about this again when we talk about Low, but very visceral action sequences.
Oh, yeah.
Which I love in comics because I mean the film editor in me is just like putting those pieces together and going like, yes, from here to here to that.
And I'll
Perfect.
say this about Pretty Deadly: I love the of all of the books, I feel like I love the ensemble of Pretty Deadly the most.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because like just these big like mythological, like we have Deathface Ginny is like this like girl raised by Death himself.
I love
We have
Deathface Ginny,
Big
yeah.
Alice, who's like another like Reaper from the underworld,
right.
who's kind of a bounty hunter character
Who turns into butterflies,
who turns into butterflies when she dies,
which is so cool.
when she's bleeding butterflies at the end. That was so cool.
I love that.
We have the man referred to as Fox, who may also be the Mason, whoever that is.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
totally the Mason.
Yeah.
No, I mean he is. But
Sissy is this
Sissy
this crow?
is the Raven crowned girl.
Yeah.
Like we have these big figures of like mythology striding through this book. They feel like heroes out of like a fantasy novel, and they're striding through the Old West, and I love it.
But what's so perfect about this book, the thing that I think, especially finishing it, was just like, wow, that was so involved. The beginning of this, these people are traveling town to town to do a show.
Right.
And Sissy, this little crow queen girl, is like telling
Or Vulture.
Raven. I'm sorry,
It's Vulture.
Vulture
It's a
is a
vulture,
vulture.
yeah.
Okay,
It's a vulture crown.
Birds of prey.
Well-
They're different.
Vulture's a carrion bird, but yeah.
But they prey on other things that are dead. Whatever. This is not an ornithology podcast.
What?
Sure.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I've been hosting it as if it was one this whole time. So.
Yeah, thank you for that, John. The tides
Just kept waiting for us to get to birds.
So you follow them.
Northwest spotted owl sounds like
Oh, finally.
Just write that down. Pronunciation key. But you follow them tell this story as these like
Yes.
circus performers, and you can tell this mythology has been passed down to this girl. And then you find out that the people who she's living in and around with are interacting and a big part of the mythology that she's telling. And that, to me, just like blew my mind that she's like telling the story about the Mason and
Yeah.
See, here's the
Deathface
thing
Ginny
with that
and
is
all
like
these things.
that raised some very weird questions for me personally of just
Why's
like
that?
well thinking like after I read the book and then thinking back to the beginning of it, it's like she's super involved. Like, why are they going from town to town telling this story? That doesn't make any sense to me if he's the one like leading her around and trying to protect her.
Because you get the idea from like the people in the crowd that's like, oh, nice story, good, yeah,
no,
yay.
I get that. Why if Fox, who's the Mason, because
Yeah.
there's this whole backstory to this book, which is this guy loves this woman, they get married. He locks her away in a tower because he's the only one who can love her.
Right.
She tries to kill herself by like making a pact with death and being
Right.
like, this is the only way I can escape is take me away from her. The literal incarnation of death shows up and she's like, I'll take you away from here, but you're kind of with me now.
Right.
And they have a daughter together who becomes like this badass like Reaper bounty hunter girl. But then later we have that same guy who locked the girl away in the tower go crawling down to Death and being like, I'm so sorry for what I did. I can't live without her. And Death says, what is it? Like, I'll grant you to see her again. You'll be able to die if you go kill this monster that's going to come out of the river.
This woman's going to birth a monster in a river of blood, where all the blood that's flowed into the river comes together.
Right.
And
this is some biblical shit going on.
Yeah. Oh,
awesome.
Yeah.
But while he's in
she'll give
underworld,
birth to a beast of some sort.
but while he's in the underworld, he hears the cry of a baby who was his wife's baby with Death.
Yeah.
And that messes things up a lot. His eyes get taken from him. Is that then right?
That happens after the
Is that
fact.
later?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He can see at this point.
But,
Anyway.
but he goes to the like where the monster is going to come out. Turns out the monster is a little girl.
Yeah.
And he can't bring himself to kill her.
Right.
So he like takes this girl and tries to raise her. And so like that's Sissy and Fox are
Right,
like, kind of the two main characters of this book that we're following.
Yeah.
Is the little like girl with the vulture like cape, which is super cool design.
It's
I love
really,
that.
really
Yeah.
cool.
And Fox is this like blind gunman guy whose eyes got cut out. Which how did his eyes get cut out? I forget that bit.
They get slashed.
In the underworld.
Yeah. By Death, I think.
Yeah, by Death.
I mean, it's just like a sword across the eyes, I think. There's
'Cause
a lot of people getting slashed across the eyes on this.
No,
book.
there's a lot of cavalry sabers in this book. I appreciated that.
Yeah.
So, but getting back to my original point, why is he traveling around with this little girl? Because clearly he's the one who told her this story.
Of course, yeah.
Why would he be traveling around with her so she can retell it over and over and over again? Is it like his penance to himself, kind of?
I mean, I almost look at it as like a word of warning.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seemed really like weird to me. Like, why would she be telling that story? Why would he like have
I
told her that
honestly
story
didn't
so
think
that she
about
can tell it over and over and over again from town to town?
I don't know. Like I said, honestly, I did not think about it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just me thinking too much into it. Because again, this story feels like more of a grand mythological story rather
It's
than
very folklore.
No, he
yeah.
loses his eyes. I'm sorry, I just checked. He loses his eyes from Death before he goes to kill the baby.
Oh, does he?
So he hears the baby crying, who is his ex-wife's
yes,
or
yes,
Dead's
yes.
wife's baby, and he's like, "Oh, let me take her," and the Death's like, "Nope, she's not yours." But he slashes her eyes so that he can't take her, and then he sends him off to go kill the other baby.
Yeah.
And he can't do that, which is pretty awesome. Also, Death is this like skull,
He's got like a rabbit skull.
I love the design of Death in it.
rabbit skull with a Civil War outfit on. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some the character designs in this book are fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I love Deathface Ginny, what she looks like. I love the vulture costume that you talked about.
And the whole
way
idea
Death
that
looks.
Sissy is kind of like destined to become the next Death, and that there's some kind of weird like cosmic cycle going on is kind of the thrust of this book, at least in the later bits, and that all of these characters are kind of fighting against that because when Death like took a bride, he kind of like upset the weird natural balance of the world.
Yeah.
And Sissy has to replace him in order to restore balance.
Right. So
The other person that we haven't talked about, you're gonna say it's only because he's a ginger, but
Johnny Coyote.
Johnny Coyote.
I like Johnny Coyote.
is awesome, and he plays a big part. You feel like he's not as lofty and mythological as everybody else.
No. As soon as he said Coyote, I was just like, oh, he is the Coyote.
Yeah.
Of like Native American folklore. He's the trickster. He's the like he incites events.
Yes, and he has a intense interaction at the beginning with Alice, who's coming to find him, and in a brothel shoots him in the leg, which is a pretty intense moment at the beginning of that book. And but no, he definitely messes up the plans of Death and Big Alice. I mean, everybody really.
Right.
He's awesome.
Oh yeah.
Again, he's like one of because he has like the contract between that will stop Deathface Ginny from going and killing the Mason while he's alive.
Right.
That sentence didn't make a ton of sense. But he kind of, on purpose, on accident, makes sure that it falls into Sissy's hands. And
Yes. Because she said, you gave me the binder, and he says, no, you took it from me. She's like, yeah, but you knew I would. So.
Right. And it's like, I expect you to read it, not to burn it.
Right.
Because she destroys it, and it starts this whole chain of events. Is part of the thrust of this book.
Yeah.
That he's no longer safe from Deathface Ginny, who is his, not his stepdaughter, but
Kind of.
he's technically her father by marriage.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of implied that, like, she was...
Wouldn't that be stepdaughter then?
She was...
But no, because her mom's dead at that point.
Fox's,
So how does that work?
Fox's mom, like, died and, like, got taken by death while she was pregnant, and the child that came of that probably should have died, but was raised by death, so she became this, like, undead Reaper Revenant thing.
Yeah.
So
she's hardcore.
Oh, so hardcore.
She's the cool. I mean, when she's sword fighting like everybody and just is destroying
That's when
them.
I really started.
Deathface Ginny is like the Clint Eastwood of this book.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
that's why I
totally.
said, like, she reminds me of, like, specifically Pale Rider. I mean, Man with No Name kind of stuff. But Pale Rider specifically, because that had a very biblical kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
That movie. But yeah, that's where I really started to click in with the book, when I sort of recognized her as that, like, Western, nameless character.
The Ronin of the West.
Right, exactly. Yeah, because there's, we're talking a lot about biblical stuff and Western stuff. There's also some, like, samurai Eastern kind of stuff in here, I feel like.
yeah.
This is almost like a Kurosawa movie in some ways and stuff, and with the sword play and stuff. That's obviously not traditional to most Western things.
No, but it's
unless you're
awesome.
talking about Zorro.
I always count that as a samurai
Sure.
movie.
You put the pointy end in the other man.
Yeah. Oh, Mask of Zorro, such a great movie.
But yeah, I really do like Pretty Deadly for its like big mythological.
Oh, yeah.
kind of.
Oh, my
it,
God,
it paints. It's a fable. It really is.
I was incredibly excited, like at the end of issue 4 and issue 5, when they're going down to see Death and stuff. I'm just like,
Into the
where is
underworld.
this going?
Yeah.
And then the confrontation with Death, where they're on the gallows, and they're like, "What the hell's going on?" This is his domain. He can make it look like whatever, and he's got the.
and it's just a long street in the middle of a town with a gallows. In
It's
the middle.
the
It's
most-
like, it's a Western
it's
showdown
so good.
arena.
and then he's all in black with his men all in black and stuff like that, and it just is it has a like magical but classic Western climax, which was
Yeah.
so awesome. I said the action in this book is fantastic. Like, I just think the action sequences are some of the best I've seen.
But by that same virtue
Mm-hmm.
of it being this like big like archetypical story,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we're not getting necessarily the same amount of character depth that we get out of
I completely
something
agree.
like The Wicked and the Divine or
I
Low.
completely agree.
You think so?
I think they're more archetypes than they are, and I think that, and there's nothing wrong with that. It really works for the story. I didn't necessarily need to know more.
Right.
I feel like Sissy, you get a lot of character development, and Fox, you get to see the past where he's developing from and where he is now.
But even with like Fox, it's presented in this very folklore kind of way. Even his past and stuff is this very,
This is a thing that happened.
Right.
It's not necessarily it is directly impacting what's going on now.
And beyond, I see like what they talk about. He loved this woman and stuff, and then you're like, okay, well, you told me you loved this woman. Like, I don't, what I mean.
But I mean, the use of flashbacks to inform what he's doing and why he's doing it.
I understand what he's doing and why he's doing it, but, but it doesn't have the depth of character. I understand everyone's motivations. It all works for the story. It's a great story.
Again, I think it's more of a fable or a like legend or a myth presented in this great book than say the story of Gilgamesh is great, and if it's presented visually, I'm sure it would look something like this. But it's not necessarily a character piece. We're not getting inside the heads of any of these characters, really.
Right, and
I was in their heads the whole time. Every last
maybe
head.
Death because it's hollow, but
yeah, literally inside.
So I don't know if you guys have looked at all about where this book is heading into Volume 2.
Is Volume 2
more
already
Deathface
out?
Ginny?
No,
Right?
no.
No.
Well, no. Deathface Ginny is in it, but Volume 2 is not out. There's been a long wait for Volume 2 is just now coming out, I think. But it takes place in World War I.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
so
totally on board.
we're going to a completely new setting and place and stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So this is going to be,
Tale as old as time.
kind of a thing. Like, this is a story told over the ages sort of a thing. And that definitely lends way more
Yeah.
to the whole mythological air to it as well.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying as well with the. Well, that's why I want to bring this up now with the character stuff. We sort of are moving from character to character. I mean, like a lot of the characters won't be in this. Sissy, the mantle of death has fallen to her.
She's become death, yeah.
Yeah, and then Deathface Ginny is there as well.
We-
but I think aside from that, we're looking at a whole new crop of characters.
We could get a pretty deadly Wicked and the Divine crossover. Because they're all mythology.
I suppose.
I think they present two very different mythologies.
I'm being
and try
humorous.
to reconcile those two styles of art as well.
I'll be working on it.
Yeah, but that's
Dude, that's cool. I didn't realize they're published. Are the issues being published right now?
No. The second story arc is set to launch in September.
In issue form.
So we're probably not going to get the second trade for
A while. You
A
can see
long
some of
while.
the character designs.
Ooh,
and
that's
the
super
first
cool.
cover.
And now we're all just looking at images
on
that you
this
guys
page.
can't see.
But yeah, you can go if you type in Pretty Deadly. If you Google Pretty Deadly Volume 2, you can look at some character designs and the cover.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll be able to, on our Instagram page, we'll be able to post some pictures of all of the comic books.
Oh, yeah. And we can post this as well. But it looks really cool. So that is Pretty Deadly. You guys want to say anything else about Pretty Deadly?
Of the three, I think I like the art in this best.
I would actually agree with that.
Yeah, I actually would as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
I like them all, but
I
I'm
think
just saying,
purely from an art standpoint, yeah,
Pretty Deadly was gorgeous.
It's really
It's incredibly unique. It's gorgeous to look at. Yeah, there's almost this like tapestry quality to it.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you, Emma Rios does some incredible art.
and
totally.
obviously she's not doing the color work, but
And there's a
whoever's doing the
visceral
color
sense
work
to
is,
like
is
some of
beautiful, too.
the action sequences
Yeah.
as well. It's just like, ooh, this feels brutal. You feel some of the speed of these moves.
Right.
It feels just like
That's one. Yeah,
it's a sense of motion and action in this art that's really, really good.
The action in this it flowed so perfectly.
yeah. It's an excellent book. I mean, all three of them we recommend for sure.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't like ugh.
No.
This one somebody stepped in it this time.
But we like these books for different reasons.
Absolutely,
is what we're getting at.
and talking about that, we turn now to the book that I brought to the table, which is
Which I think ended up being all of our favorites.
it was
It's not because John brought it to the table.
Sure,
It was
sure,
all of
sure.
our favorites. He lucked out.
Independently, though.
but we were talking about a book called Low,
Oh, so good.
which is once again written by Rick Remender and drawn by Greg Tocchini.
I'm not going to lie, going into it, like, Remender is the writer I was the most familiar with going into, like, reading these three comic books.
I feel like I've read a pretty good selection of all three of their careers. I mean, like,
Yeah. But I'm just saying, for me personally,
Yeah.
going in, I'd read the most of Remender, so kind of knowing what to expect in terms of tone,
Sure.
but then totally turned on its ear. Like, this is much, I don't want to say much better than everything else I've read of his, but it's such a good book.
It's a great book. Yeah, no question about it.
It is an emotional whirlwind.
You might even say an emotional whirlpool.
It is that as well. Too soon, Kirkoni. Too soon.
Too soon.
Too soon for the future when we're underwater.
Oh, okay.
Naturally,
So-
John, give us a premise on
I was
this.
going to say,
Sure. This is I'm getting this from comicvine.com, which says millennia ago, mankind fled the Earth's surface into the bottomless depths of the darkest oceans. Shielded from a merciless sun's scorching radiation, the human race tried to stave off certain extinction by sending robotic probes far into the galaxy to search for a new home among the stars. Generations later, one family is about to be torn apart in a conflict that will usher in the final race to save humanity from a world beyond hope. Dive into an aquatic fantasy like none you've ever seen before. How many aquatic fantasies have you seen?
so many aquatic fantasies.
There's Waterworld.
Yes. I've seen that at least 10 times, so that's 10.
So that counts as 10.
That counts as
obviously.
10.
Every viewing is a
I believe I would count the Disney classic Atlantis.
the classic?
It has Michael J. Fox in it.
All right, then yeah, of course it's a classic.
classic.
Automatically, every movie he's in.
And Father Guido Sarducci is in that movie.
It's true. It's true.
That's what a Disney movie needs to be a classic.
Yeah, exactly. Those are the criteria. So it's the only one that counts.
You know, you could probably count certain aspects of the Phantom Menace to be an aquatic fantasy.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Not that we do talk about that, but there's
we try
always
not
there's
to.
always a bigger fish, John.
That's true. There's always a bigger fish.
But I wouldn't say I have a lot. I would say though that is a completely apt description. But that gives you. I mean, as all
You
good
forgot
descriptions
Jules
should.
Verne's 10,000 Leagues Under the Sea as aquatic fantasy.
Well, 20.
Oh, come on. That's aquatic sci-fi.
Fair enough.
If we're
And
gonna,
I am loath to mention Jules Verne, so.
yeah.
Really, you're not a Jules Verne fan?
Why do we name a unit of anything after that guy?
Hang on. I want to get back to you. Don't like Jules Verne?
I am firmly in the H.G. Wells camp of father of science fiction.
Okay, I don't really.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
Have equal love
If-
for both.
if
I don't
H.G.
really see
Wells
that-
was
that we
so
why we have
smart-
to pit them together. But
If H.G. Wells was so smart and he wanted to defeat Jules Verne, he could hop in his time machine, go back there.
He
you know,
did.
And undo.
That's why all of Jules Verne's books stink.
No, but like
God.
remove all of his
not
texts.
a
Guys,
literary podcast.
He still
specifically,
wants
but-
to prove that he's better than him to all of history.
Oh, he changed the manuscript so no one was looking. That's fascinating.
Oh my
you
God. Oh my
sneaky H.G.
Let's
Wells.
just get back to low.
Anyways, what I was saying though is like any good description, it only gives you part of what's
Well, of
going to
course, of
happen.
course.
But this one, even more so, caught me by surprise. Of like that first issue alone, you are scrambling to figure out like where it's headed, why you feel so sad, like all.
I think I know why I feel.
I
so
know I
sad.
do too, but just like you weren't anticipating
Murdered
that.
father and kidnapped daughters
Like I
Yeah.
was not anticipating
by submarine pirates.
the emotion. I mean, the first page or two is so hopeful and fun and like, for lack of a better term, like flirtatious. It's like this, like, oh, this is a fun world, and then all of a sudden it takes a
They have
hard.
they have a nice dynamic. Or the characters we meet initially.
Oh my
Was
gosh!
it Joel and Stell?
There's kind of like a Swiss Family Robinson like air about it.
Which Remender seems obsessed with. Because have you read Black Science as well?
Yeah.
That's also like a Swiss Family Robinson thing that's
totally
been
is.
corrupted. I don't know what that's about. He's fixated on that story for some reason. But yeah. So what you don't realize is issue 1 is a prologue.
Yeah, basically.
Because I didn't know anything going into the book other than I knew this was a book about an underwater society, which I was totally sold on. Rick Remender and Underwater Society.
Yeah.
No, it's a cool premise.
Yeah. But yeah, so you don't realize that you're seeing this family, the Kane family, and they live in this underground world because I mean it seems like a long time ago people fled to
Thousands
the oceans.
of years ago.
Yeah. So
A new epoch in history has risen and fallen since mankind has descended beneath the waves.
Right. So you've got a firmly established underwater society that's we're still it's still a temporary home even as long as we've been down under the water. We're still looking elsewhere.
But that's the thing,
Well-
because we're coming in at the end of the reign of the
Right.
underwater society.
Like that society, even if some people aren't admitting it, is crumbling.
Absolutely.
Like they've lost cities. There's like only 3 cities left.
Right.
At the start of this book, and even one of the like those aren't doing so hot.
Sure.
Well,
Oh,
and
no,
even just
yeah.
like on a supply standpoint, like they literally are counting down the minutes of air they have left.
Right, because they've been recycling air for years and years and years, and just it's getting poisonous. I mean, so, but yeah, through that we're sort of introduced to that through these characters, Joel and Stell Kane, who are kind of arguing for opposite things. I mean, the pessimism versus optimism, sort of.
The air of hope and optimism that Stell Kane embodies in this book is unlike anything I've really seen in a character in science fiction in quite some time. Just that unwavering, it's almost faith. It's almost like a religious zeal of just like, no, we can make things better.
And that's what I found so brutal about this book is from the very beginning, you love her.
Oh, yeah.
You are like, there's just like, you want to be around people who are that optimistic and that like lovely of people, and then you just get to watch her just get thrashed. That's the thing, is like, it's not a kind world to be an optimist.
This is Remender's description of the book. It is about one woman's optimism in the face of inevitable and true doom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is you know that's going to happen, and you just like, no, don't don't get your hopes up, but you still want her to hope, obviously, because that's who she
Of
is
course,
as a
yeah. I
character.
mean, that's the
So it's, I mean, that's just watching. Like, I don't like watching good people go through like really bad things. Like, you don't
Yeah.
Like bad people going through bad things. Like,
Well, sure. Yeah.
you kill any Nazis, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
You know?
Listen, we've talked about this on the show before.
Yeah, but I mean,
we can't get into some Nazi killing.
there are people that you're like, no.
But seeing good people put through the ringer. But that's always what makes the most interesting story, is
of course.
seeing
It's true.
those people overcoming the horribleness of the world and whatever goodness is left shining through.
I mean, especially
literally in the
or-
case of Lowe at the end of this book.
Yes, but I mean, I was going to say, especially in this sort of post-apocalyptic genre.
Right.
I would say that's, I mean, because you look at something like The Walking Dead, there's a lot of aspects of
But
that in there as
not
well.
even necessarily specifically in post-apocalyptic, because I've talked a little bit about my love of the Dresden Files, which is urban fantasy. And that's definitely about like a good man just being like continually pummeled by the world, and regardless of that, he is still going to try to be a good man.
Sure.
He's going to make mistakes. He's going to falter, and that's definitely true of Stel Kane in Lowe. But regardless of that, whatever makes them that good person is going to keep them moving
Oh,
forward.
yeah. I mean, that's true. There's many a hero in all kinds of stuff that's like that. But something I was talking to you guys about before the podcast was I've sort of been talking about this as Mad Max underwater.
Yeah.
And I feel like that Max Rockatansky is that kind of character.
My point, which I didn't make before the podcast because I knew we were going to be recording,
we said like 2 sentences and then said no, save it for on mic.
Was I don't think Mad Max has the kind of hopefulness that Stel Kane in Lowe has.
You mean the actual character of Mad Max or the
Both.
world of it?
There is a sense of hope in Lowe that we do not have in Mad Max, I feel like.
I would disagree specifically on the grounds of Fury Road.
Fury Road definitely has a bit more of an optimistic
I would say
lean
that
at the end.
she has more of a Furiosa kind of
Yes. Okay, I'd agree with
vibe
that.
to her. I don't mean the character, but the Mad Max is a character to me that, to veer off into Mad Max just briefly, and then I'll be back.
You're fine. Go for it.
Max Rockatansky is a character who is a hero in spite of himself. He
Right.
keeps denying that he's a heroic character, but he keeps doing heroic things. In every movie, he saves a
it's
ton
true.
of people.
It's true.
Even though he at
He
first tries to
stumbles
be
into
selfish.
someone else's problem and solves everything.
But the
Right.
thing about Stel is she sees other people as the heroes. She sees like all the good in her son Merrick, who is like not doing so hot, you know, and she's got all this hope. for
Perhaps
things.
more of a Max sort of character.
Yeah, I
that
would say
sense.
he's more of a Max character
Yeah.
and an awesome character.
Absolutely. The
Oh,
characters,
By
all the
the
characters in
end,
this
you're
are,
just like, oh man, you love Merrick.
this also had my favorite antagonist of any of these books.
The Pirate King?
Yes.
Yeah,
Number
I
one,
love the underwater pirates, the Scurvies.
it is a
The
glorious
scurvy
thing to be a
horde.
pirate king.
the design of the Pirate King, whose name escapes me at the moment. What do you remember what it is?
Like Furl or something?
It's something like that.
I can find it.
Okay, because on the list of characters I have, they only have the Kane family. So, but his design is so interesting to me because he has a very like Asian, like almost samurai kind of look to him.
He kind of reminded me of some interpretations of the Mandarin.
Yes,
yeah,
but then
totally get the
so he
Mandarin.
has this very Asian look, right? But then with red hair, which is interesting, and then on top of that, he speaks like an old pirate.
Oh yeah, I love that.
So I'm just saying, like he's full of the he's this weird design, and then
Roln is the character's name.
was it
Roln?
right? And his brother
R-O-L-N.
and his brother is Grom, I believe.
Yes.
and he is so.
And Grom is one of the coolest designs of a character.
Oh, yeah,
because
both of
it's this
them.
whole idea that they were injured, right? And he's all metal on the inside.
Roln is.
Rolling, and then Grom is all metal on the outside, and so he's just like a walking robot suit with a skull inside of it, which is cool. I mean, like the design of these villains is really awesome, and he gets some cool villain monologues as well. Roland does,
and they're both so inherently evil.
oh sure,
Like there's no
well
reason
because
left in them.
they're well yeah because they're
Well, the idea that they were rescued by the mythical Fourth City,
Right.
And they got better, and they learned from them, and they became better versions of themselves thanks to these people in the Fourth City. And then they immediately turn on them and unleash the pirate hordes into this like utopia.
right.
that
I mean,
they've been
these were
rescued
guys
by.
who were born without a chance, basically, and so even by the time that they get to this city, it's so ingrained in them to be these monstrous pirate characters that they can't help but lead bloody rebellion against everybody, and just be the monsters that they are.
Yeah.
And they are really. I mean, these guys
Oh,
are
yeah.
nasty as hell.
They're like getting a bunch of like savages and pirates and trying to build on top of the ruins of this utopia city that they were rescued by, and they're pitting like citizens in gladiatorial combat.
Yeah,
and
that's
they're
usually a sign that they're not so
trying
nice.
to suppress
Yeah,
literacy
if
and
you're,
like all of this stuff.
they've got when you go in when you see the scene where they're in the when Tajo's in the library. And they're just like, no, I'm seeing some interesting things. Why aren't you showing these to other people and stuff? And he's just like, well, we want to.
That would cause unrest.
Yeah. Let's keep that away from them.
Because that's
but they
one
have
of the
this, but they have this giant library that he's kept under wraps.
But
he's well read.
You mentioned the character
Right.
of Toho. I wasn't quite sure how to pronounce her name.
I said Tajo. That's how I pronounce
But
it.
she is one of the Kane members' family.
Yes.
Because that is one of the big important plot points. Is in the first issue, the Kane family
the
is
first
like
issue is so rough to get
violently
through.
ripped apart
Yes.
by these pirates.
Right. And the two daughters, Tajo and Della,
Are kidnapped.
are kidnapped.
The father,
Joel
is killed.
And
yeah.
the brother wasn't there.
Yeah, Merrick was not there.
But it still messes him up emotionally
Of
because
course.
their family is quite literally ripped apart.
Yeah.
We find out later in the book that at least one of the girls was being raised by the pirates, and that's Tajo.
Yeah, we don't know what happened to Della.
It says at the end that she was sold.
Yeah, I don't know.
Where
but
that's a big point to the end
left.
of it.
That's left very vague, though.
Yeah.
there's just one dropped line about her being sold.
You also feel, though, that he's keeping Tajo for... I mean, not you feel. You see, there's a suit that the pirates want to operate,
Yes.
but
A
it's
helm suit.
genetically bound to the Kane family.
Right.
So Tajo's really their only hope to do that. So
Yes.
they have to keep her in order to use that eventually.
I'm not gonna lie, I really wanted to see Merrick get in that suit.
Yeah, theoretically he could. He just hasn't been trained. I mean, right? That's kind of what they alluded to, that he went a different path with his career.
Sure.
and
Because
everything.
he was the mechanic, where the girls were going
Yeah.
to be the pilots.
Yeah.
Which that was the final little bit at the end of the book where we find out that their father. It was always kind of implied that their father didn't approve of what Merrick was doing,
Right.
not trying to become a pilot of the helm suit.
Yeah.
But then in the end, we see that the father was like, "So long as you found your path, I'll be happy with whatever you do."
Right.
It's just like, oh, it hurts.
Yeah. No, there were several times that it was just brutal to watch.
Because Merrick was this almost like mechanic kind of prodigy sort of kid, you see. And then when we flash forward 10 years, he's like a crooked cop who's screwing a hooker, and then screwing over said hooker afterwards.
you don't get the sense that he's
Killing her.
Yes, inadvertently killing her as well.
But you don't get the fact that he's like a crooked cop. You get the idea he's a good cop and
I
a
don't-
crooked person. That's the thing. It's him that's messed up and is off time doing this. It's not like he's swindling judges
We
and
don't
stuff
see.
like that.
We don't really know what he's like as a cop, actually.
Oh, I know.
I don't think there's anything.
What books were you guys reading?
There's no part of the book that
I just think he's really messed up. I mean,
He's super messed up.
That's the
Absolutely.
thing.
He's a very
I think that was the
tortured
point. That
If
they
he
were
was a crooked cop, I wouldn't be shocked.
no, I don't think he cares.
But we don't know much about his police work.
They don't
I
really
guess.
deal with the police
It's,
too much.
it's
in
not
this.
very important, I guess.
making. The police don't really have much of a say in things in this book. It feels like. I mean, it feels like they're gonna we're gonna die soon.
Yeah, that's sort of the thing. Is there's this knowledge that everything is doomed.
Because countering all of Stell's optimism and continual, no, there's got to be a better way. The future is what we make it sort of attitude. Everyone else is like, this is just the downward slide.
Sure,
Humanity
because
has had its run.
Where sort of where Stell comes from is a place called Sulis or Salus, something like that.
I think Solace.
Yeah. But anyway, when we see the council of this place, they're just having a drug-fueled orgy because hey, we're gonna die
It's
soon
a
anyway.
Bacchanalian love fest.
And
Yeah.
what makes it even worse is they're like,
Nero
"Come on,
would be proud.
hang out here because we've got about 3 more months of air that we're
Yeah.
keeping for ourselves."
Right, and so we're gonna last longer
Which-
than the people in the city, and we're just gonna have sex and do drugs all the time. Just that's it. It doesn't. Was it their drug is called cream?
Yeah. And it's like a hallucinogen.
Yeah, exactly.
It lets people envision reality as they most want to see
Right.
it.
Which
Like
is-
when Merrick is doing it, he sees himself as like a Roman centurion.
Yeah. Which I was gonna say that that very Aldous Huxley, Brave New World.
Yeah,
Kind of.
yeah.
That, I mentioned we talked about that before. I think we started recording. That I was going to bring.
No,
that up. But
okay, yeah, I can.
That aspect of it, just
Fine.
like the world outside doesn't matter. Ignore all the problems of
Right.
everything. we're just living for.
But the same could be true of like there's a lot of sci-fi devices that use
Sure,
that.
Fahrenheit
like,
451 also has
Fahrenheit
that.
451 has that. There's in a lot of like good dystopian sci-fi. There's this idea that the establishment has given you a way of ignoring how shitty the world is.
In almost a reverse way, there's equilibrium, which is
Yeah.
taking the emotions out of everybody.
Or where the sidewalk ends. I mean, that's Shell saying, you know what, just forget about society, just read this book, imagine people like this, imagine this world. Don't think about other things.
Sidewalk's over, kid. It ended a while
thinking
ago.
of Shel Silverstein in like a dystopian like sci-fi way has totally rearranged how I
You know,
think of
him
all of his
and
books.
H.G. Wells were good friends, and they used to travel in time.
Yeah.
because they were there around.
That
the
is
same
a
time.
sitcom I want to see.
No, we've talked about, there are comics written about, like, the end of the world, like Superman after all,
Sure,
or
yeah,
Hulk,
yeah.
the last one on Earth.
Yeah.
Where the sidewalk ends is aptly named. He was there at the end of the sidewalk, and he looked out onto oblivion. And he came back and wrote a children's poem book.
So we should talk about as well. We talked about Tajo being with the pirate people and being kind of definitely brainwashed
into the pirate society.
Right? Yeah,
There's some brutal turns in that.
Yeah, there definitely are. And then she's all over the place. I mean,
There's two separate occasions where you think she's like, oh, and she's found her reason again. Nope.
No.
yeah. I mean that's she's one of the most fascinating characters as a result of that.
I also don't know how her hair is attached.
Yeah, I don't. With crazy, there's a lot of crazy sci-fi stuff that's kind of presented as blasé. Like they're
Because her hair appears to be floating above her head.
And spikes.
Because there's
Yeah.
the helm suit, which is like the super like mecha suit that the Kane family can pilot that's capable of taking down like giant leviathans and blowing up whole cities.
Right.
But then there's just the average like swimsuits that they're
Which are very interesting.
which are super cool and interesting. They've got like weird biomechanics going on with them. They can kind of transform to be weapons or better like to propel them.
I was
going to
say they almost have these like mermaid-like fins. At a
Right.
certain
Yeah,
point,
that was a great chapters when Merrick and Stell are traveling and trying to find this city so that they can get more air, and then they,
Yeah.
Oh man, that was so good. Like the journey of the mother and the son, and kind of the son's redemption through that before the inevitable crash of their whole reality again.
Sure, yeah.
But like that journey was just like yes, and that was one of the very small instances where Stell's optimism was
Falters.
rewarded. Mm-hmm. No, it was rewarded.
it was
They get
rewarded,
there.
yeah.
Like he's like, "No, Mom, it's not there," and she's like, "Yeah,
Right,
it's there."
right.
Of course, when they get there, it's different than what she thinks.
Sure.
But like,
But that's definitely
so good.
what part of what makes the character of Stell Kane so impactful and so interesting is there's kind of these moments where internally her optimism is wavering and she kind of has to tell herself, no, I can make the world a better
Right.
place.
Yeah.
I just need to keep going. Especially in that like 4-month flash forward where
Yeah.
she's imprisoned by the pirates
Yeah.
and Merrick is becoming the gladiator king.
Which is awesome.
Oh man, that whole aspect was just.
I
Perfect.
wish we'd seen more of that. I'm not going to lie.
I
Like,
don't know. I mean, yes, but you see, like the entire last issue is pretty much a gladiatorial combat
Sure.
sequence.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about his like, what is it, Merrick's Mutineers or something?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
the formation of that like cool, eclectic group of mercenaries who are all speaking out against the pirate king, but are still slaves and forced
Yeah.
into gladiatorial combat. Like, I want to see that story. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a
It's
cool
like
yeah.
That's Planet
Gladiator.
Hulk.
Gladiator meets
Maybe that's why I like it so
Guardians of
much.
the Galaxy.
possibly. Yeah,
Gladiator meets Guardians of the Galaxy.
sure.
Planet Hulk.
Underwater.
Less underwater in Planet Hulk.
Yeah.
That was the problem.
There's no problem with Planet Hulk, John. You are wrong.
That's a conversation.
There's a
for another
conversation
day.
of another podcast. Sure.
But yeah, so we're left in a cliffhanger of sorts.
Sort of, because you have Merrick getting killed through some treachery on the part of the Pirate King. Who knew?
Yeah, with his awesome barbed blade weapon
Yeah.
thing that he's just a douchebag.
Likes to remove eyes.
Yes. Well, because he's trying to get the helm suit to work, so it's like it's optically routed.
Yeah.
So if he has the eyes of some of the Kane family, he can make it work, or at least that's what he thinks.
yeah, because how did that didn't he wasn't able to operate
He
it when
stole
he
Joel's
had,
eye, and that
he
didn't work.
it didn't work. So
Yeah, I don't know. But in the end, so like Merrick is dying, and Stell is like trying to fight her way and save her son. And that's when we finally get Tajo kind of snapping to her senses and being like, "You killed my brother," and just getting into the helm suit and going like ballistic.
So good.
So good. Just
Oh, yeah.
avenging angel style wreaking havoc.
Well, again, because there's a couple opportunities for herself to like get in the right or redeem herself, and she majorly misses out.
Oh, I mean, she betrays her mom straight up and like, "Why would I go with you?
Yeah.
Like, you're going to go in jail for 4 months."
Yeah.
You're not my mom. That's kind of what it feels like.
Right. And then at the end, we have her, destroying the city.
Destroying the fourth city.
Right. And then taking off to go find her sister, she says. And then, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because there apparently is no one's working on this book anymore.
What?
Not at the moment.
Oh, no.
There's only the 6 issues. I don't know.
Oh,
I
God.
can't find any information about continuing.
Oh, why'd you have to tell me that, John?
I
Ending
don't-
on a downer like the book.
It hasn't been canceled or anything. that I
Sure.
can see,
but like
there's
knowing
no-
that it's not immediately going to be available in 6 months is.
Oh, no,
Or that I can't go read the next issue right now.
There are no more issues out. This is it. There's only the 6.
That hurts.
Yeah, I can't answer why that is. I don't see anything about it, but
Well, we will do some research, and I'm sure if any more low comes out, we will be highly recommending it.
of course. But yeah, I don't. Nobody's doing it.
Now, brave listeners, courage.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the Wicked and the Divine had the most like I have to know what happens immediately. This is an ending of sorts.
Sure.
I mean,
This feels like the end of Empire Strikes Back, which is interesting considering it's this first book.
kind of
Like,
yeah.
there's an ending, but do I definitely want to know what happens next? Yes. I want to see Tajo going off and finding her sister or whatever happened to her. I want to see, because Stella's left in the hands of, like, Merrick's, like, gladiator friends.
right.
And they're going to go off and do something. Stella seems a little broken near the end of this book.
Oh, sure, yeah. I mean,
Like, maybe this is what finally wrecks her unwavering optimism. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to predict what was going to happen, you're going to see her kind of downtrodden for a while. Then something's going to happen and snap her out of that, and she's going to get the redemption of that. I mean, that's kind of what it felt like it was leading to.
I
It was
hope
like,
so.
There's a tipping point. Then you see like how much that messed her up, and then
But if this was like in the 3-act structure, imagine what the like dark middle chapter of this is going to be.
I felt like this was kind of like almost felt like the dark middle chapter.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
To begin with.
That's why I'm saying the end of this book almost felt like the end of Empire, where it's just like, okay, this is an end for now, sure, but clearly this story has to go on, and like we have to rise up from this low point. Aha!
I mean, yeah, sure. Like I said, I'm open to more of this book for sure. But yeah.
What I'm most curious about, because the whole inciting like story here is that a probe telling Stell that
Right.
like there might be another habitable world for humanity is somewhere on the surface, and that's where they're heading. I want to see what the surface of the world looks like if the underwater bits look as
Well, there's-
crazy as they do.
And there's one shot of the probe, isn't there, where there's a bunch of people surrounding it?
Is there? I don't even remember.
I'm pretty sure one
I don't
of the
remember
issues
that.
ends with that. This is great podcasting.
Just flip.
I don't
through the
remember that
cover.
at all.
Yeah, neither do I.
Were we not reading the right book?
Is there a surface civilization that we're unaware of? Oh no, actually, I think you're right. I seem to remember like were they like lizard folk or something?
Yeah, it was something like that.
Like there's
What?
some kind of weird thing going on the surface that we're not aware of, and that's what I'm.
Is it the
like,
surface of this planet?
yeah, it's the surface of Earth.
Okay.
We think it's Earth.
Here it is. At the end of issue 2,
Yeah.
you see the blipping, the dreep of the
Of the
probe,
on
and there's
the
a bunch of
surface.
creatures
There's
surrounding
a bunch of
it.
weird creatures, and yeah, they look like lizards or like bug people.
Right,
It's
and
very
then
weird.
and then it ends on the line. There is hope.
There is hope.
So I'm taking that to be that's what that's wherever the probe, and that's the probe we saw. Blinking its
It's signal,
signal,
because that's
yeah.
the signal they're following to
Yeah.
hopefully get to the surface. And yeah, but I want to see like their adventures go up out of the sea and into the surface, and like
I mean, there's the room is open for it if Remender wants to take it, but he's a busy man doing Black Science and an awesome book I've recommended on here before called Deadly Class, which are also both image books.
I want to pick up Deadly Class.
Deadly
I've
Class
heard great things.
is really cool book, really cool book. Plus, he does stuff for Marvel. He's
Oh, yeah. No, he's a busy guy.
He's a busy guy. But yeah, if he wants to continue doing Low, I will continue to read it.
Oh yeah,
Definitely.
All of these titles.
Yeah,
Oh,
I would pick up the second volume of any of
As
these.
soon as the second volume of any of these is out, I will pick it up.
The Wicked and the Divine, the second volume is out soon.
Is it July, I want to say?
Hmm. So who knows when this is going to come out? It may already be out by then.
Well, if it's already out, go pick up the first volume and the second volume of Wicked and the Divine,
for
as
sure.
well as Low.
But
and
read them
Pretty
in
Deadly.
order of 1 and then 2. In case you were confused.
Preferably. I think that would be for the best, yeah.
I think it would be more artistically fulfilling if you read the second one and then the first, kind of like as a flashback.
Oh, okay. well,
It's like the Hatchet order they recommend Star Wars.
Sure. Well, kind of. I think that makes more sense than what you just suggested. But,
Sure.
you don't start at the very middle.
Fair enough. You don't start with Empire.
No, that's what Low was. Is starting with the Empire chapter of whatever's happening.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So I think that does it for our indie book spotlight for this week.
Yeah, definitely. Check out all of those books.
Oh,
Clearly,
yeah.
you've been listening to us the whole time, and we recommended at the beginning that you check out all these books. But super. I mean, come on. These books are great.
Yeah. Cool. So as we wrap that up, we turn now to our recommendation segment, where we recommend these three comics, but we also recommend some other books too. That
Yeah,
you should,
I would like to recommend some
try
other
to
books as
read some
well.
stuff. Gregani, what do you want to recommend?
I would like to recommend a pair of webcomics, actually.
Okay.
But they are by the same people.
Okay.
Got it.
Let me just grab the book real quick. Here we go. The first one is kind of the main thrust of my recommendation. It's a webcomic called Looking for Group. It's by Ryan Somer and Lar D'Souza. It's kind of a fantasy adventure comic.
Okay.
It definitely felt like it started out as kind of a parody of World of Warcraft or some of those MMO things, but it has definitely evolved into its own mythology, its own kind of storyline. There's this grand epic adventure going on. One of my favorite anti-heroes, Richard the Warlock, is accompanying the young elf. Oh, crap, I'm forgetting his name. Kale is the shortened version.
Okay.
And they're adventuring around, and there's some ancient prophecy to do with Kale as he's kind of trying to make his way in the world. It's a really fun webcomic. It's been running for years. Each update is like a full page like you'd see in a comic book.
Uh-huh.
And it's definitely got a humorous slant to it, but
Right.
it has some very cool and serious moments in it as well. The other comic by this duo is called Least I Could Do,
Okay.
and that's more of a traditional comic strippy kind of comic. It's
Right.
more slice of life.
Sure.
It's got the bit like three. It's actually, speaking of comic strip, it updates 7 times a week now, and the Sunday one is like a big full color page that they always
Okay.
do. It's
Wow.
super impressive the amount of work that these two guys put out. Because Looking for Group updates 3 times a week. Least I Could Do updates 7 times a week. And you can find both of those webs. Like Looking for Group is, I believe, like lfgcomic.com, and Least I Could Do is just leastICoulddo.com.
Okay.
And both of those comics I highly recommend.
Cool. Donovan, what do you got?
I just read the first trade of The Sixth Gun
Oh, great book.
by Colin Bunn and Brian Hurt. And it's an Oni press book, I like a lot of Oni stuff. It is, so I mean, the one I brought to the table today is a Western with like kind of this mythology behind it. Sixth Gun is that, but I would say it feels more like fantasy sci-fi elements
Definitely.
in a Western where you're coming in. There's this dead general who this band of like evil people is trying to resurrect, and he's trying to get his gun that is unfortunately bound to somebody else. And there's these 6 evil weapons that all do awesome things like melt flesh or flamethrower or boom like a cannon or can wake
Right.
dead armies. It is,
You know, flamethrower or wake the dead.
yeah. I mean, there's a
They vary. These guns vary in what they do.
there's a huge spread, but you follow this female character who's kind of thrown into the mix of everything, and then the main character is kind of a swindler who you don't really trust,
Right.
for most of the book, and he's going about trying to acquire some of these guns as well, and you're not really sure why. It is really fun. It is a really, really fun book. I bought it like 3 months ago, and it was just sitting on my shelf, and I regret not reading it sooner because it's really fun. I like everything I've read by Cullen Bunn so far. So I highly, if you like Western at all, just listen to me forever.
Cool.
That's my recommendation.
So bouncing off that, I have two recommendations. They're both sci-fi. They're both like space books. They're both from Image. But pulling off of that, the first one is a Western. It's a space Western called Copperhead.
You know I like space westerns, Joe.
Oh, you're going to like this then. So this is Copperhead is a grimy mining town on the edge of a backwater planet. And it follows this woman, Clara Bronson, who's the new sheriff of Copperhead.
I think you've told me about this book.
Maybe I have, because I highly recommend it to
Yeah.
people, especially if you like space westerns, like a good Firefly thing or something like this. So it's just it's a western story about this woman who's now the sheriff of this weird mining town on this planet, and just trying to deal with the locals, including the corrupt mining company owner.
So it's a little Sparks, Nevada, Marshall and Mars?
No. It's Brave Star.
It is. It's like a more serious Brave Star kind of.
more serious.
What do you mean more serious? He's got the strength of a bear and the speed of a puma.
Yeah,
what is
she's
more
ju-
serious?
She's just a person. But one of the cool things is it's very Western. Like, it still deals in the Western tropes. So she's dealing with like weird aliens that speak like redneck characters. Y'all get out of my property, sheriff.
That is so Sparks, Nevada.
Yeah, that is very Sparks, Nevada. But yeah, there's that thing. But they're like weird, like slime green
Sure.
creatures and stuff.
That's fun.
It's a super fun book.
It's
that
called Copperhead?
It's called Copperhead, yeah.
Cool.
And then the other book is called Starlight. It's by Mark Millar and Goran Parlov. This is an amazing book. Both of these books I just like plowed through in one sitting because they're so incredible. Starlight is basically it's about this guy Duke McQueen who
Awesome name.
who was basically Flash Gordon. Mm-hmm. So he was an American test pilot who found himself on a planet that was under the control of a dictator.
Evil space emperor.
Right. He overthrows it. He's the hero, but he's like, look, I got to go home. I can't stay here.
Sure,
They're like,
no.
you stay, you be our hero.
Yeah.
And so we pick him up now, and he's like 70 on Earth, and nobody believes him. Everybody thinks he's just a crazy old man who made this stuff up. Then one day the spaceship comes back. We need your help again, Duke McQueen. And 70-year-old Duke McQueen has to come back and save the planet that he saved, 40 years ago.
That's awesome.
Or whatever.
That's
and
really
it's
cool.
such a great book. And it's all about, because he's become this just like sad old man. He's like the guy in Gran Torino, basically. Nobody respects him, and he's just whatever. And then he gets a chance to be the hero he once was as a young man again.
Gran Torino meets Galaxy Quest.
Kind of, yeah.
Whoa.
Cool.
Yeah, by way of Flash Gordon, yeah.
I'd watch that.
It's already been optioned to be a movie.
Of course it has.
It's a crazy awesome book. I mean, obviously, I love anything Mark Millar does.
Is that an Image book as well?
It is, and both of these are Image books. This is because Mark Millar, his Millar World imprint seems to be with Image these days.
Really? I thought
Yeah.
that was a Marvel thing.
See, everything I've been reading from him these days is Image. So because he also did a book called Jupiter's Legacy
Right.
for Image.
I saw that.
That's a Image Millar World co-publishing
Okay.
thing. So I think it's obviously moved to Image from the look of it.
Yeah.
But he's still writing awesome comics. So
That's true. Starlight is what that's called?
Starlight is called.
Cool.
yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
I believe the first volume is called The Return of Duke McQueen.
Can't get over that name, Duke McQueen.
It's such a great name. What's such an old movie serial name? Yeah, but it's a great book. I highly
Come
recommend
join
it.
the adventures of Duke McQueen.
Exactly, yeah. So check those out if you get the chance, and if you want to let us know what you think about those books, or the books we talked about earlier today, or just any comics you want to let us know, or you just want to tell us that we're cool. I don't care.
Let's hope it's that last one.
Hasn't
I haven't heard that nearly enough in my life.
hasn't happened yet, but we're hoping someday.
One day.
We're like Stell.
We're just like Stell. Maybe one day someone will think we're cool. You can find us on Twitter at I'm aware. We're on Twitter at Panel on Panels. We're also on Facebook as Panel on Panels. You can email us panelonpanels@gmail.com and subscribe to us on iTunes. Of course, you probably already do. If you don't, maybe you use some other service. That's fine.
But if you happen to be on iTunes, you could leave us a review
Yeah,
or
if
a
you want-
5-star rating. That would be lovely.
Rate and review
Or,
us on that.
I'd be happy with a 4-star rating. That'd
I
be
would
fine
not.
too.
Don't do that.
If you
mean,
have
What's the
3-star
difference? What's the difference between a 4 and a 5? Like, what would lose us that star? Is it Donovan's presence? You can be honest.
It's me. It's me. But if you want to give us a 4-star,
I was going to say it was probably me, but
give us a 4-star through something else.
I was sparing your feelings. It was, of course, it's you.
You know who would give us a 4-star? Wilson Fisk.
Wilson Fisk.
We brought back that bad whisking memory.
I know. We brought that.
Oh my God, this again.
Fisk can't whisk.
I mean,
Changing the title of our podcast to Fisk Can't Whisk, that might have been a mistake.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't be able to function if that was the title of our podcast.
Every week I said, welcome to another episode of Fist Can't
I
Whisk.
would just be, you'd hear me in the corner just like laughing my head off.
I love
It
anytime
would
anyone
be-
says Fist Can't Whisk, you have to lean back away from the mic so you can laugh loud enough.
It would be a culinary show. It would be a culinary
It's
show with Wilson Fisk and other Marvel characters. And yeah, I think that would be a beautiful thing. We're lucky though that
you
he
and I
gave
have
us
different definitions of beautiful, but
he
beyond
gave us
that.
4 stars as opposed to burning our houses down and killing our whole family. So
You know
I
what,
think we
that-
got off the hook.
That was nice of him, actually. Yeah,
But still, come on, 5 stars, buddy.
Man,
It's
still-
common courtesy.
man still can't whisk.
Yeah. Well, there goes everything we love.
So I think that's going to do it for this episode of Panel on Panels. I've been John Campbell.
I am currently Mike Gorgoni.
And I will always be Donovan Eilert.
Keep reading comics, everyone.